Good morning. This is Virtual PBX-admin training. Got another minute to go before we get started. Just want to make sure the audio is streaming properly all the way through. The training will last about an hour and a half, give or take. Sometimes load times take a little bit to come through. Feel free to make use of YouTube's chat feature to ask any questions about features as I go over them. We do record the trainings, so if you're new here, you don't have to stay here for the whole stream. You can go to our YouTube channel under videos. You'll see all of the previous trainings here. Last week was a little choppy, so I would say skip that one, but either come back to this one or the previous weeks. I'll also be referencing a couple other videos we have on the YouTube channel just for some features that are easier for the demos that we have there to show versus in the training. All right, it's 10 o'clock, so let's go ahead and dive in. We are showing here our login page, which is at dash.virtualpbx.com. You can also get there from the virtualpbx.com website. And so if you go to virtualpbx.com, you'll see a blue bar towards the top of the page. And there's a login link there that takes you right here. For admins or anyone who gets assigned to an ACD queue, I do recommend bookmarking this page just to make it easier to get back to. To log in, we do need your email address. That's your unique identifier. We'll need your password, which should have been emailed to you. And then lastly, we need the account name, which is typically your company name. Now, if for some reason you don't have your password, or you simply forgot, just above the sign-in bar, we have a forgot your info link. Right? So you click on that, flips it around. We still need your email address. And then we need one of the following two. Right, so we need either the account name or a phone number on the account. Typically, the account name is the easiest. And then you click on Reset Password. The system will send you an email with a link. Right? You click on the link. It takes you to your account page where you can change your password. Once you do that, and that's basically all you're allowed to do, the system will log you out and basically take you back to the sign-in page. So we'll go ahead and get, oops, I totally messed that up. All right, so you enter your password, and the main point of that is so you can click on Remember Me. And we'll go ahead and get signed in. Now, I'm using a test account that I've logged into several thousand times by now. So it's going to take me to my dashboard, right? Give me a snapshot of what the system status is like. If it's your first time logging in, the system actually takes you to your user account page. Now, you can always get back to your user account page by clicking on your name up here at the top. And you see here, the main thing people change is their password. That's by far the most common thing. And this is where you change your own password, right? If you need to change someone else's password, you would do that under the Users tab. Now, as an admin, you also have access to the account settings over here on the left. Most common thing changed is the time zone. Right? Make sure you're in the proper time zone. Now, for your accounts, right, you're a live account. So under the user section on the left, there'll be additional billing information if you're a system admin, right? So this is where you would update your credit card information, see things like your previous invoices. You can see your service plan. You can also update your contact information, right? So whoever gets the invoices, and essentially who's the billing or the owner of the account. Oh, that first time logging in, right, the dash wizard will pop up, so giving you pop-ups about what things are and what you can change. When you're done here, over to the top right, just above where it has your email, you want to click on Close. And that will take you back to the dashboard page. So up here at the top again, you got your name, right? That's what you click on to get back to that account page. Many of you to the right of your name, you'll have a Dnd toggle, right? So Dnd for Do Not Disturb, which you can click on to basically say, hey, I'm not taking calls right now. The reason I don't have it is because my user is part of an ACD queue. Now, it looks like that gets cut off. I'll have to see if I can get that adjusted on YouTube sometime. Oh, there we go. Now, to the right of that, there's a little help icon, question mark. So we have up to 4 options. By default, if you're a new signup, you're going to have 3. Just a heads up. All right, so chat with us. This opens up a chat window, typically to the bottom right of your browser window. So you can talk to a support staff member to help you out. Then you've got Learn More. This will open up a new tab and take you to our support pages so you can see the various guides we have written up for our various features and VoIP phones. Online Store. This opens a new tab, take you to store.virtualpbx.com. That's where you can order a VoIP phone or a router, among other things. And the one that doesn't always show up or won't show up immediately is the web phone. The web phone only shows up until after you've assigned a web phone to your user. Right? Once that happens, usually by the next time you log in, the web phone option shows up here. This opens a new tab, takes you to webphone.virtualpbx.net, which has a login page. The login there is your same information you use to log into Dash. Right? So it shares that information. The web phone allows you to use Chrome or Firefox on a computer to make and receive calls over your internet connection. So it's a VoIP phone, just a browser-based one. Next, we have the 3 horizontal line icon or the hamburger icon, right? Menu icon, right? Takes you to other Dash features. We are primarily going to be in the dashboard. That's the main meat of this training. We will be going to most of these other ones to some degree or another. Some of them are plan specific, meaning you may need to upgrade your plan, like dynamic caller ID. I will make sure to try to call those out. So for any kind of plan change or like price checking, right, you're going to want to go to our account services team. And then lastly, we have the logout icon. Now here in the body of this page, we have our total users, right? I have 21 people on my account. These are people who make and receive calls. Most of our plans are based on the number of users, so I'm paying for each of these people. Right, if I remove someone, my bill will go down. Then I've got total devices. I have 34 and a breakdown. Now this breakdown is fairly general, right? So first up, soft phone. Soft phone means software application that uses your internet connection to make and receive calls, right? So it is a VoIP phone. It can be our Virtual PBX soft phone app. It can be someone else's soft phone app. Right? That's what's all in this bucket of 16, it looks like. Cell phone is our next grouping here. Oops. All right, we all pretty much know what a cell phone is. Web phone, that's that browser-based option. And then SIP phone. This is a physical phone, right? Hardware sits on your desk. It's still a VoIP phone, right? Because SIP is a kind of VoIP device or protocol. Usually connected with an Ethernet cable to your router, gets on the internet, make and receive calls. Unregistered devices, right down here, I have 2, and that's actually in reference to my SIP phones. So I should expect that 3 of them are connected. We'll see if that's the case. Since this is a test account, that's can be a different result. Now, total numbers, 35. This is the number of phone numbers on my account. Most of our plans include between 1 and 15 phone numbers as part of your monthly plan price. So I am paying an overage for a lot of these numbers. We obviously don't make a hard cap. We let you go over. Just once you play a per month, per number overage. Here we have a breakdown between assigned numbers and spare numbers. An assigned number means you're using it, right? Someone can dial it and get to your, dial one of your main numbers, right? So it gets to a greeting, eventually get to a person, right? They can dial any assigned number. The idea behind assigned numbers is if you dial it, you can either speak to someone, leave a voicemail, join a conference, or send a fax, right? It's somehow going to connect. Spare number on your account, so it counts towards your allotment, but you're not currently using it. For instance, in the US, just had 4th of July not too long ago. So if you had a 4th of July promotion running, and now it's completely done, right? We're not accepting anything about calls about this promotion. Easy thing to do is put it in spare numbers. Now when people try to call that number for that promotion, they get a busy tone. Next breakdown we have here, USDID and US toll-free. US toll-free is US Canada toll-free, right? 800 number, 888, all the way down now to 833. USDID, that just means a US local number, right? So you can have, say, a number in Lynchburg, Virginia, would show up under USDID, as would a number, say, in Grapevine, Texas, or say in Portland, Oregon. And they would all be USDIDs. You can have an international number if you are so inclined. You'd want to email our porting team at porting@virtualpbx.com. They'll check to see what's available, or if we can get the number in the particular country you're interested in. If there are additional requirements to get that number, they will let you know, right? Those requirements come from the country in question. Conference bridges, I have 4. That means I have enabled conferencing on 4 of my users, meaning 4 of my staff members host or moderate a conference. Right? It doesn't mean only 4 people on my staff can join a conference. That's a different aspect. Now up here to the top right, can't really highlight it on the system here because it will start reloading something. But you see I have a box of main numbers here, a total of 5. These numbers all behave in the same fashion. Right? So they're all going to the same location in my system. They're all going to play the same main greeting. Right? And from there, they may go on divergent paths, depending on what people press. Next up, I've got conference numbers. You can have multiple conference room numbers. This is numbers that everyone dials to join a conference. Right? So whether they're my staff members, they're my vendors, or they're my customers, everyone would dial one of these 2 phone numbers. Then the system would prompt them to enter the conference room number and the PIN number. The fax box number, this is your inbound fax number. Right? You can have the one main fax box number. You can have users have their own fax box numbers if you want them to. Just adds a number to your account and a user feeder. Next up, we have the company directory. This is you download a CSV file to your device. Right? Shows the people's names, their extensions, and their primary devices. The soft phone directory, this is for use with the Virtual PBX desktop soft phone application only, at least currently. This allows you to download this file and upload it to our Virtual PBX desktop soft phone app, and allows you to see the status of the other soft phones on your account, right? The presence in relation to the soft phones. Now, if your staff members have a mix of devices, right? So like, so they make use of our soft phone, but they also say have a Polycom phone, right? Well, the directory for the soft phone will only show the status of the soft phone, right? We don't know what's going on with the Polycom phone with the soft phone directory. All right, next up, store discount code. So just for being a Dash customer, you get a discount code for use within our online store. And then lastly, we have the account realm. Every account has their own account realm. It's used in a couple things. Most common probably is that it's used to program a third-party soft phone. Right? It's one of 3 pieces of information you need. The other thing it's used is part of faxing out. So within the Dash system, you don't actually have to log into Dash to send a fax out. You actually just need to send an email. Right? So whatever your email address is used for your user, from there, you create an email like normal. In the to field, +, number 1, area code and phone number, @ and then your account realm. Right? Then you just need to attach a PDF or TIFF file and click send. Right? So the system looks at the to field, the from field, and the attachment. You're limited to that one attachment, and again, PDF or TIFF. Up here back towards the top, we have caller ID. This actually opens up your company caller ID. Now, unfortunately, not all the pull downs work on my streaming software, so I can't show you this one, but this is any of your main numbers, right, that you see over here to the right. You can select any of them, right, and that becomes your default number for a bunch of different other features. Then you have your company caller ID name. This is an optional thing to fill out. You can input up to 15 characters, including spaces and special characters here. Now, once you do that, then you do need, or the system pretty much requires you, to input the company emergency information, or E911. It wants a North American address. And then you would click on Save Changes down here at the bottom. Now, once you click on Save Changes, this company caller ID name information is transmitted to the other carriers who support CNAME. Right? That's the name of the feature. It takes them about 3 business days to update their servers to have your CNAME associated with this phone number. Now, when your VoIP phones make a call out, right, from your system to your customers, right, the system will default to this phone number as the outbound caller ID and will attach this name information as part of that caller ID. Some things to be aware of. Not every carrier supports CNAME. So it's possible when you make that call out, along the way, one of the carriers doesn't support CNAME, so that information gets dropped. Your call will still connect all the way through, and your phone number will show up, but your company name will not. There's not a lot we can do to control that. The other thing to keep in mind is when making calls to cell phones, the cell phone carriers, they control what shows up on the cell phones on their network, right? What shows up on their displays, right? So they're the ones who put on spam risk or telemarketer, that sort of thing. Company caller ID name will not supersede that. In some cases, some carriers want to charge their subscribers an additional monthly fee in order for company caller ID name to show up on their cell phone. When I looked into this a few years ago, my carrier wanted an extra $10 a month. I said no. I'm okay with not getting the CNAME information. All right, so when you're done here, just click Save Changes, and your information gets updated. Now, one thing to know about the company caller ID name, this will not work with toll-free phone numbers. Toll-free phone numbers were originally designed only for inbound calls only, which means they were never designed to have CNAME as part of their capabilities. So if you select a toll-free number up here at the top, entering CNAME information here won't work. It just won't get attached. Hold music. So on Dash, you can have hold music set up for all your users by default. Now, hold music is defined as once a caller has reached a user and the user has pressed hold on their VoIP phone, that's when this hold file will play. You can click upload here to add your own file. The system will play back MP3 and .wav files. I recommend recording in mono just to give you some more file space, but you can use stereo if you wish. And currently we're still restricted to 1 megabyte in size. You would click browse to find the file on your computer, click the up arrow icon. Once it finishes uploading, then you click on Save Changes. Now ours is actually part of main number over here on the left, so I'm just going to click on main number. And it can sometimes takes a little bit for this page to load. So first up, we have main company numbers. Shows my 5 phone numbers. If I decide I no longer want to use one of these phone numbers for whatever reasons, I can click unassign next to it. Now, the number is still on my account. I just instead moved it to become a spare number. Now, probably more relevant for most people is adding numbers. So first option right here, add from spare numbers. This shows you the numbers available on your account that you could add and make use of, right? So any place you can add a number, you will have an option to add from your spare numbers if you have it. The other option here is by numbers, and then you have 2 choices, local or toll-free. Toll-free, pretty easy, right? You select your toll prefix that you like most, and then you click on search. The system is going to provide a list of phone numbers that are currently available. This list is dynamic, meaning you're actually competing with other people in real time. So you wouldn't want to go, click add, right? So I've added it to my cart, shows the number. I can click on trash icon. But I wouldn't want to get to this point and then, go to lunch, right? My girlfriend showed up, said, hey, let's go to lunch. I'm like, all right. Because by the time I come back from lunch, it's possible that someone else had come in and taken this number. And then when I try to click on by numbers, it won't go through. Now, you can add multiple numbers if you're so inclined. But when you click on by numbers, the system double checks. Make sure the number is, no one took the number while you were thinking about it. Then adds it to your account. And in this case, it's adding it right to my main numbers. Over here to the right, I have a little gear icon. I can update the caller ID for the number, so I can update the CNAM information, turn on the ability to accept inbound CNAM. Right? So that means it would show up on my staff members' phones if the inbound caller has that. E911, I can set up E911 for each of my phone numbers. Right? So each phone number can have a different address. Right? If you have this just one location, then it doesn't matter. But if you have multiple or you have staff members working from home, right, then you can have these individual addresses set up. The reason for that is that means you can then, under your VoIP phones, assign a different E911 location to each VoIP phone, so it's the correct address for that device, right? So when someone picks up the phone, dials 911, the correct address is transmitted to emergency services. Prepend is a VoIP feature. This allows you to put text in front of the caller ID that shows up on your VoIP phone's display. Just gives your staff member a heads up of what the call is about. Also under by numbers, we had local, which I didn't talk about previously. Local numbers, you need to know the area code. Now, some area codes, you'll get this message, right? Meaning that area code, that specific area code has been exhausted. Meaning there's no readily available phone numbers for us to get. The best thing to do in this situation is probably Google, but if you just know what the other either nearby area codes are or an overlay area code. So like 323 is a nearby area code to 310. So I can say, oh, there's numbers here. I can add it, right? So an overlay area code means it has the same geographic footprint as the first area code. So 310 is exhausted. 424 is the overlay for area code 310. So, and that means they cover the same geographic locations. I can find a 424 phone number and then add it to my account. Now, obviously, adding all these numbers to my account, I'm potentially increasing my bill, just based on, most accounts have between 1 and 15 phone numbers. So that's one thing to be aware of. All right, once you have phone numbers in place, you can then have office hours strategy. By default, new accounts start off with 24-hour open office, right? Meaning, hey, the system's ready to take calls, right? Custom office hours, once you put the radio button there, then for each day of the week, put a check mark for the days that you're open. And then over here on these boxes to the right, you select your open hours in 24-hour or military time. Now down towards the bottom, you have the option here to say you're closed for lunch. So if your facility closes for lunch, right, on a set time, then you can put a check mark here. And if you do so, you then enter your lunch hours in that 24-hour or military time. You'll leave that off. But any changes you make, click on Save Changes. All right, next up we have office holidays. First question, are you closed for holidays? If you are, put a check mark. If not, leave it alone. And then over to the right, add holidays. This is a pull down. You have single day, you have date range, and advanced. Single day I have right here under New Year's Eve, right? So each of those creates a new row. You give it a name. You select, in this case, for single day, the month and the date. You click on Save Changes. Date range, like I have for Xmas break, right? Give it a name, start date, end date, Save Changes. Now, there's no year indicator for any of these. So for date range especially, we do recommend to avoid a date range that includes New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. Years ago, that would cause a problem. It doesn't anymore, but just to be safe, it's best not to have that. And then advanced is like I have here for Thanksgiving, right? You still give a name, and basically you're saying you choose the month. This middle pull down, you have 1st through 5th as well as last. And then you have the day of the week. So third Thursday in November, we're closed for Thanksgiving. And again, any changes, click on Save Changes. And now we're down to incoming call handling. Right, so this is how my main numbers are handling calls that come into them. Notice I have subtabs. I have during my open hours. How's the system going to handle calls during my after hours or for my holidays? Right, if I was closed for lunch, I'd have another tab for lunch hours as well. Now the options are basically the same. For most of you, especially if you just signed on with us or signed up with us, you'll only have these first three options. The fourth option here at the end, that only comes up is if our team created what's called an advanced call flow for you, or if you created a secondary auto attendant that's available in your main menu, then this option would show up. All right, so let's go with the first option. Calls are coming in to my virtual receptionist, sometimes referred to as an auto attendant itself. This is a link, so you can click on it. It's going to open up a big old box. Now, on the left is my main menu. Right, this is what these are menu options people can press on their phone to navigate through my phone system. Down here, I have Add Route. I can click on that. It gives me a new row. Now, this first pull down, you have 0 through 9, as well as the star key and the default action. The second pull down, that's where you decide where the call is going. Right, Smart PBX directory, right, the dial by name directory or user directory. Users, this means you're sending a menu option directly to a specific person on your account. Right, so they always have to be added first. Right. Scroll down, we got call queues. This is if you're making use of ACD queues, which is an upgrade feature. Usually it's like a department with advanced call routing options. We have groups. This is an included feature also for departments. It's got more limited calling options. Devices, right? So you can send call menu options to a specific phone. Not always recommended, just because if that phone doesn't have its own built-in voicemail, right? Either the inbound caller is waiting forever, they hang up. So not always the best experience. And then you have voicemail boxes. Right, so it can leave a message. And the last option, media files. Oh, not the last option. Sorry, second to last. Media files, so that way a menu or like a greeting plays, right? So like hours of operation or directions. Now, once the media file plays, the call ends. And then lastly, you have the option for the advanced call flows. So secondary attendants. So like if you're making use of submenuing, right? Press 1 for English, 2 for Spanish. Those would be secondary attendants, right? Submenus, right? So if I selected Spanish here, they would press 0 to go to Spanish. That would have its own greeting and its own menu options. That's what submenuing means. Now, if you don't want one of these options, you just click on the X to the right of it. Then we have our greetings. This is where you tell your customers what to do, right? You're going to say thank you for calling. You're probably going to hopefully say your company name or organization name. And then you give instructions, right? 1 for sales, 2 for support, right? That sort of thing. You can include things like any special promotions or directions, etc. But the main thing you want to make sure you do is telling customers how to navigate through your system. And then these are your greeting options. Text to speech, you type in what you want the system to say. You click update, save, and then save changes, and it saves a file for you. Now, this isn't a computerized or robotic voice. The system, you're restricted to 250 characters, not words, characters. It does not count spaces to my knowledge. At least in my testing, it hasn't. You can sometimes go over that 250 characters, but 250 has been consistent for me. When you click update, save, and save changes, the system just gives it a file name. In this case, it'd be my main open hours, right? For menu, and it's text to speech, so TTS. So main open hours menu TTS. It's possible if you come in later, right? So let's say I typed in a greeting, I called in, I'm like, oh, that didn't sound right. Or, oh, I forgot to put Bob's, menu option. I come back in here and I edit the file, right? Because it'll show me the existing text that's in place. So I can make a quick update. I click update, save, and save changes. But now I'm going to have two files that say main open hours menu TTS as their file name. And I don't have an easy way to differentiate them. So my recommendation, if you're using text-to-speech, which is good for like if you're just starting out, if like you've never used a PBX system before, you're a startup, that's great. But when you create that first text-to-speech greeting, after you click update and save changes, over on the left, you can kind of see it grayed out, greetings. You want to click there, and there you can change the name. Right? So instead of saying main open hours menu TTS, you can say main greeting 1, right? So that way you know it's the first one you created. So that way if you need to make an adjustment and then you need to flip, you can compare the two, flip back and forth. So, oh, wait, yeah, that's the one I want, right? It's easy to find from a pull-down menu. You can upload your own file, .mp3, .wav. You want to, again, recommend a recording in mono and try to keep it under 1 megabyte. Click on this file. You'll find the file on your system. Click open, click update, save, and save changes. Right? In this box here, that's where you can give it the file name. So you can have it something, again, main greeting 1 or main greeting upload. Right, choose from existing recordings. This will show all your media files on the account. Right, so whether it's a main greeting, a voicemail greeting, or a hold music file, it's going to show up here on this pull down. The more media files you have, obviously, the longer the pull down. That's why you want to have those file names that are easily recognizable for you. You have the option to record it over the phone. Now, this first instruction here, right, says a phone registered to this account. What that means is a VoIP phone on the account, right? I.e., let's say, a Yealink phone, Cisco, etc. Now, if you don't want to do that, or you can't, let's say you just signed up with us today, you also ordered VoIP phones from us today. Now, we don't have instant transmission of physical devices, so you have to wait for those VoIP phones to rise, but you want to set up your main greeting. And you want it with your voice so it's comforting for your customers. There's a way around that. So under our settings, you want this one down here, allow outside recording. By default, it's off as a security feature, but you can turn it on because you're a system admin. When you turn it on, you click save changes. Yeah, you want to open this back up and get back to this page here. Now you can call in from a cell phone or landline. So you call your main number, and that first time, like you've never called into your system and you haven't set up a greeting yet, when you call your main number, the system will say, the greeting for this menu has not been created yet. It will then prompt you for the PIN number. Right? This PIN number is specific to this time of day, right? So it's specific to my open hours, right? So if I called in at 8 p.m., which is after my open hours, this PIN number won't work, right? So I can only change it during my open hours. But so that first time, once you enter the PIN number, the system will walk you through recording the greeting. It gives it a random file name, a bunch of numbers and text, which again, I would recommend going to the Greetings tab and renaming it. Now, if you already have a greeting in place, when you call in, right, you hear your greeting A play, you can still enter this PIN number in during your open hours. The system will recognize it and then walk you through recording a new greeting. However, no option to change the file name. So it says greeting file A, that's your file name. You just overwrote the content with whatever you just said. That could be kind of an issue during the holidays, because sometimes people rush to get their greetings updated. Okay, then we have professional recording services. When you click order down here at the bottom right, this will open a new tab and take you to Snap Recordings. They have a bunch of voice actors and actresses to choose from. They have different packages. They handle their own billing, right? So you basically give them a credit card. They charge your card. They deliver to you via email. And then you would just, upload your own file. Right? So they have not just greetings, but they can do like hold treatment. So hold like music and then a script is read, that sort of thing. They have many packages available. All right, settings. So let's get this back to default here. All right. So the first two I explained together because they're kind of related, right? So number of retries on misdial, dialing timeout. The number of retries on misdial is how many times your inbound caller can make a mistake. The dialing timeout is how much time the system listens for additional button presses after it hears one. So, caller comes in, right? Listens to your greeting, and let's say it presses option 7, which is not a menu option. And I don't have an extension number 7. System waits for a count of 5, making sure there's not an additional digit saying like, hey, I'm going to enter something after that 7. After 5 seconds, says, nope, that's it, not a valid option. Says, well, they get a retry. So the greeting plays again, right? So now the person says, oh, they press 8. And system waits 5 seconds, says, nope, that's not a valid option. There's no more retries. Now, in this particular scenario, the system will send the caller to the default action, right? My PBX directory. If I remove that, right? So if I don't have a default action in place, after that failed attempt, the system says we didn't recognize your entries and says goodbye. Right. This one here, allow dialing extensions. By default, it's on, meaning if the inbound caller knows the extension number, they can dial it and the system will transfer it. Right. If I turn this off, that means the inbound caller, they can only press on menu options. If they enter an extension number, the system treats it as invalid. And then we have to suppress the playing of the invalid entry message, right? So if you don't want the system to say we didn't recognize your entry, you can turn this on, and then the system won't play that message anymore. Any changes you make to your main menu, your greetings, or your settings, you need to click Save here, right? It will take you back to your incoming call handling, and then you want to click Save Changes here. All right, second option is the live operator answer option. Basically, the idea here is you're giving someone so you have this first pull down here. You can send people to a directory, but generally speaking, most people use this either send it to a user or possibly a group or ACDQ. Right, so send it to a specific person, a department with advanced routing or department with basic routing. You could send it to a specific device, right? So a specific phone. After 20 seconds, it's going to send it to the virtual receptionist. I'm not sure why voicemail boxes is here because that seems like an endpoint. Or you can have a media file play. Now, I don't recommend the media file play because after whatever media file plays, right, you go to the virtual receptionist, you're going to have another media file play. Now, we're still under my open hours. So if I click on this virtual receptionist here, right, it's the same options we were just looking at. If, however, this is my after hours, and I click on the virtual receptionist, right, we have a different set. Which makes sense, right? You would have probably a different greeting for after hours during open hours. All right, third option here is you have the same options here, right? Send it to directory, users, groups, queues. Media file works in this particular case because after 20 seconds, it gets sent to the next step. You can send it to devices. Again, I'm not sure why voicemail boxes is there. But you have this other option here, skip to voicemail. So call comes in and you're sending it to whichever voicemail box you specify. And then this last option here, this is to send callers to your secondary attendants or advanced call flows. Again, only shows up if you have those. If you don't, you only have the 3 options. And so this option, skip to voicemail, right? We see it most often here for holidays and typically for like a 1 or 2 person office. Right, so that one is, hey, we're closed, we're taking the time off. All right, main conference numbers, right? So you can have multiple conference room numbers, right? You can add from spare or buy new. You can have a custom greeting, however, that's text to speech, right? You click enable, type it in, 250 characters. Click on Save. Even without a custom greeting, when anyone dials these two numbers, right, the system says, welcome to the conference, and then asks them for the PIN number or the conference room number and the PIN number. Right, if you don't want to use a number, I can just unassign it, and now it's a spare number. The main fax box number can have just the one phone number. Right, so if I didn't have one here, I would have the option to add from spare or buy new. You also have the option here to edit the fax box. Click Edit here. You have the inbound notification email. This is the email address that is going to get an email whenever a fax comes through. Now, if someone dials your main fax box number, right, here's fax tones and hangs up, then Bob here is also going to get an email saying that there was a failed inbound fax attempt. Now, in that kind of scenario, if you recognize the phone number or you were expecting a fax, right, then you'd want to contact that person, the other person faxing, you find out if they have any information or say, hey, it didn't come through. Right? But if it's a random phone number you don't recognize and you're not expecting any faxes, chance it was someone just misdialing. The email permissions, this is for outbound faxing. It's designed to put in your company's email domain here, so that way everyone at your company can email out, right, and send a fax without having to be a user on your Dash account. All right, next we go to auto attendance. So auto attendance is a specific feature. This means that it's available on some plans and not others. So if you're interested in this, you would need to change plans. For that, you need to talk to our account services team. Setup for the auto attendance is used for a couple different things. One I've already mentioned, which is the submenuing, right? The one for English, two for Spanish. The other thing it can be used for is if you own or run multiple small businesses, right? So each business has its own phone number, its own main greeting, right? But you have the same staff members answering calls for these businesses, or you just want them on the same account, right? You can have different extension numbers. Those are the two primary reasons we see people make use of auto multiple attendants. So up here at the top, you click on Auto Add Attendant. We just need a name and an extension number to get you started. All right, then you click on Create Attendant. The extension number, that's for internal use, right? It's not expected that your staff or your customers would know the extension numbers, but your staff members would be able to transfer calls to other auto attendants if necessary. Now, once an attendant is created, if you click on its name, you have the option here, is it unavailable in main menu, meaning it's a standalone attendant, separate business, or if you click on it, available main menu, meaning it's a submenu option, right? So that's why Spanish shows up under various options, whereas Puchua, Kir, and Chinese currently do not. Now, attendants can have their own phone numbers. You can add from spare, buy new, right? So they can have multiple phone numbers. There's a little gear icon here, so you can update the caller ID, E911, and Prepend. Extensions, you can update the extension numbers for your auto attendants. Now, in general, if you need to change an extension number, I recommend adding the new extension number first, and then click on Save Changes. Then you come back and then unassign that original extension number, and then click on Save Changes. Then under Settings, you have a little wrench icon. All right, and so you see here I have open hours, after hours, and holidays. This matches what you already set up under main menu, right? So your secondary attendants have to have the same hours of operation and holidays as your main system. And then you just have the option here for the virtual receptionist. So again, add a greeting, add your routing options, adjust your settings. right, next up we have devices. So red device means it's unregistered, so we can't send calls to it. Black, like you see here, that means we've disabled it, right? We turned it off over here on the right. And then green means it's registered, so we can send calls to it. Up here at the top, add device, you have these options. SIP phone, that's that physical VoIP phone, right? So piece of hardware. Some manufacturers have a lot of models, some don't. So if you're out shopping, I would say, check this so you can see the list. We also have a list on our web pages for compatible phones. But what you need to do is find the make and model of the phone you're working with. Then down here, give it a name, right? Bob's phone. And then we need the MAC address. The MAC address is unique for each device. Usually a sticker on the back. If the phone's plugged in, you can usually find it under its basic settings or status. So you would enter that here. You would click on create device. And then after that, you'd only need to assign it to a user. You would then need to access that device, the phone's web user interface, right? The web UI, typically getting the IP address of the phone, entering the IP address into your web browser. You need to enter a URL, basically telling the phone, hey, go here to get your config file. For the specifics of that, you want to go to our support pages. You want the document called auto provisioning phones, right? That's going to have screenshots. It's going to have the specific syntax and the URL that you need to enter. And then after you do all that, the phone should reboot a couple times and then show up as a green device. Right, cell phone and landline are the same, whereas you basically just give it a name and then you enter +1 area code and number, right? No spaces, no dashes, no parentheses. And then you click on create device. Now, when we send a call to a cell phone or a landline, right? Let's go to advanced options here. This is the basic or the default settings, right? So we send a call to your cell phone, right? Your cell phone rings. When you pick up, you're going to hear a message saying, this is a forwarded call. Please press 1. When you press 1, you're telling the system, yes, you're there. And yes, you want to take the call, right? And the system then connects the call to you. That's great if you're actually setting this phone number that you added is an actual person, right? An actual cell phone number. Let's say, for instance, though, you're making use of a automated answering service to handle your after-hours calls. That automated answering service, right, can't press 1. It doesn't know how to, right? It is not able to. So what you would want to do is under these advanced settings here, this first one, put a check mark here in front of allow use of cell phone's voicemail. What that does is when we hear that pickup tone, we connect the call. Right, so there's no message about pressing 1 to accept the call. It's just pick up, connect. Now, if this is actually your cell phone, right, so we're sending calls to your cell phone number. If you don't pick up, but your cell phone voicemail picks up, right, that's still a connected call, right? We still hear that tone. So that inbound caller is up on your personal cell phone's voicemail box. Some people want that, some people don't. The other thing that can come up is this one here, keep original caller ID. By default, this is on. Now, what happens here is customer Mary calls you, right? Calls into your system, it gets to your cell phone. On your cell phone, you see customer Mary's phone number. If you don't recognize it and you're tired of all those extended auto warranty calls, you might let it go to voicemail. If you uncheck this, instead of seeing customer Mary's phone number, you see your main company number. Quick review, we'll go back here. Right, company call ID, this phone number you selected here, that's the phone number that show up on your cell phone. So that you would know, oh, this is a work call, let me take it. Right, soft phone. So on the devices page, if you add a soft phone, you can only add a third-party soft phone. If you want to add a Virtual PBX soft phone, you need to start on the users page. It's a very important distinction. But beyond that, you give it a name. And then to program that third-party soft phone, you want to copy and paste the SIP username. Click on the SIP password box, copy and paste that. And then you need the realm, right? Those are the 3 things you would need to program your soft phone. The other thing keep in mind is under settings, click on the little wrench icon here. Audio for physical phones like this Cisco, right? You want G711A and G711U for the codecs. For the Virtual PBX soft phone, you want Opus. The other thing to keep in mind, under advanced emergency caller ID, right? This is where you would select a different phone number for the outbound call, or for the E911 caller ID. All right, the greetings manager, right, shows all your greetings on the account. Up here at the top, you can upload new ones, right? You give it a name, find the file, .wav, .mp3, recorded in mono, click on create greeting. It will then upload it here, and then you can assign it wherever you need to. Here you can see the file name, and then the source, right, is either upload, TTS for text to speech, or recording, meaning it was recorded over the phone. Here, play, right? You can click on this little icon. It will play back the greeting so you can see if it's relevant. Download, so you can download the file in case you need to reuse it someplace, or you're not able to play it back on the browser. You can download it to your device and listen to it there. And then lastly, the wrench icon here, this is where you would change the name of a file or delete it completely because you don't need it. Groups, short for ring groups or hunt groups, right? Departments. Up here at the top, you click on add group, you give it a name, and you give it an extension number. And then you click and drag your staff members that you want in this group. Then you click on create group. Once a group is created, you can click on its name. So you can always change the name to something that you want it to be, right? And then you have group call attempts. There's little arrows here to the right, so you can increase or decrease it. This is how many times the system will offer a call to your group members. Click on Save Changes. Then we've got the members box, where I have 5 in this particular group. Here you see what's called blast ringing or ring all. So it's ringing everybody at the same time. Now, in terms of accepting calls from groups, for ring groups, you can accept calls on a cell phone, landline, or VoIP phones. ACD queues, currently you can only accept calls on a VoIP phone. Right, so SIP phone, right, physical SIP phone, soft phone, or even a web phone. Now, groups, you have timestamps across the top here, and this last one you can edit. The default is 120 seconds. You can also choose to have the calls ring in order by clicking distribute over here to the top left, right? So now it's ringing in this order every time for every call. If I don't like this order, right, let's say I want Geo to be in front, Aaron needs to be ranked down. Let's put David down here at the bottom. Right now I haven't changed the order, right, because Aaron's still at the 0-second mark. But once I click distribute, now Geo's first. Right, these are sliders, so I can adjust it as I see fit if I need to, etc. The other thing to keep in mind is for users with multiple devices, a call from the group is going to ring all of their devices. Right, there's a user feature called Follow Me. Calls from the group do not use that feature, right? They ignore the Follow Me calling settings. Right, groups can have extension numbers. They can also have multiple ones if you want them to. They can also have their own phone numbers, right? Add from spare, buy new. Now, a phone number on a group, right, is not a main number, nor is it an auto attendant number. So it does not have hours of operation. Right? So it's available 24/7. And then we've got group features. So ringback is essentially hold music for the group. It's not exactly that. Essentially, by default, right? Calls come into the group, get sent to the users. when the user's devices ring, that ring sound is then piped back to the inbound caller. If you don't want that ring sound to be piped back, then you would enable the ring back here. You can either use the pull down or upload a WAV or MP3 file. Click on Save Changes, and then this file will now play instead of that ringing sound. Now, on the off chance, if we don't get that ringing sound, right, nothing plays because it's replacing that ringing sound. So the ringing sound has to be there to begin with. All right, next action, to me, this is the most important group feature. It's for when no one picks up, right? So if no one answers, where do you want to send the calls to? And you have this pull down. You send back to your main menu, advanced call flows, a queue, a specific phone, a specific user, a different ring group or device, and a voicemail box. And then you'll click on Save Changes. Allow call forward. If you enable this, this just means your users can make use of call forwarding. Right? And then caller ID prepend. This is for your VoIP phone users. This allows you to put additional text or numbers in front of the caller ID from the calls that come from this group to your VoIP phone users. All right, numbers. Starts you off on numbers in use. This shows where your numbers are, right? Where they're going. Now, you're not able to unassign a number or assign a number here. It's just basically, hey, this is where they're at. Now, you can't click on the gear icon, so you can update the caller ID, E911, or Prepend for any phone number. Spare numbers, right? This shows your numbers you're not using right now. And this is also where you would remove a number from the account, right? So first, you would have to unassign a number. Excuse me. Once it's a spare number, you can come here and you can click on the little check boxes in front of the number. And now this option to delete has shown up. So I can click on that. It says, are you sure you want to delete these? Right? Click on delete numbers. And it says they've been successfully removed. And now I have less phone numbers on my account. Other thing that comes up is the port option here. This starts the porting process. You give it a name. Choose US local or toll-free. Click next, and then it wants to upload a copy of your phone bill from your current provider. And then you need to acknowledge that it's within 30 days. And then ask you for more information, right? It wants the phone numbers you're going to port, the address associated with that phone number. It will give you an opportunity to download a blank letter of agency, LOA, and then uploaded a completed and signed LOA, who you want notified as port process, port progress. You can also include a preferred port-in date. That date needs to be in the future, right? You can't do it for the same day. And even then, we don't control it, right? The other carrier who's giving up the phone number, they control when the port date completes. There's four check boxes you need to make sure are checked, and then you click submit. Now, for the LOA, it's going to ask you for information like the name, right, that's associated with the phone number and the address. That information should match what your current carrier has on file for that phone number. It does need a signature, right? Either digital signature or, hands, scanning it manually. Just typing your name in twice will not work. That gets rejected. Toll-free numbers take about 3 to 5 business days if everything is correct. Local numbers average about 2 to 3 weeks. If we get a rejection, we double check to make sure we didn't have a typo, or if, like, in case of billing or the address, we check to see if there's a additional address somewhere, either on the LOA or the copy of the bill, and we try that first. But after that, we have to come to you. The errors that we get, or the rejection notices we get, are fairly generic, right? We get the address doesn't match. They don't typically tell us, oh, the street number is wrong or the zip code is wrong necessarily. Users, this is where you would add users to your account, so more people, right? Once it loads. So great person icon, standard user. Person with the blue suit, system admin, right? So they can do all the things we're talking about here. Up at the top, you click on add user, fill out first and last name. The email address used for login, right, needs to be unique for each person, right? No reusing of email addresses. Then you create a password for them, and then you create an extension number for them. The system will suggest an extension number to you, right? So this system was started with extension 1000, say the next available is 1022, but you can change it if you want to, right? So like say, hey, I started a new business. The new staff members are starting with extension 6000s. Pretty easy. By default, create a voicemail box for the user. We do recommend this. It's just a voicemail box intrinsically tied to the user. It's not something you have to do. However, if you want a person to have a voicemail box later, there's no way to tie it to them directly like it is when you create the user. Include in the user directory, right? The PBX directory. You can always change this later. Send emails to an alternate address. So by default, the system sends emails to the email address used for login, right? So like password resets or voicemails. If for some reason you don't want them to go to that the email address used for login, then you can put a check mark here and then enter a different address. So for instance, you want everything to go to support@virtualpbx.com for your password resets and your voicemail notifications. You could choose to do that for all your support team members. Probably not great for password resets, but you get the idea. And then lastly, which I think is important, is this one here, right? Send credentials to the user. So that way they get an email saying, hey, this is where you log in. Here's how to log in. If you need to create multiple people, create user and add another. Otherwise, just click on create user. Once a user is created, you can click on their name. All right, so you can change their name up here at the top. Change credentials. This is where you change their email address or their password. You also have the option here to send them the password reset email. You can change their voicemail box PIN number here. Here's the option to send to an alternate address. Here's the option to include or not include in the user directory. This pull down allows you to change a user into an admin or an admin into a user. This pull down here, this allows you to select the time zone for the user. So their voicemail timestamps are correct. Now the ringing timeout, for Aaron's case, it's grayed out because he's got follow me enabled. But for most users, it defaults to 20 seconds. Right? That's plenty of time for a landline or a VoIP phone. If you have a user who's only using a cell phone, you're going to want to kick it up to 30 seconds or even up to 45. The extensions box, users can have multiple extensions if you want them to. Right, add an extension here. Users can have their own phone numbers. Now, just like the groups, right? These are not auto attendant phone numbers. So these phone numbers are available 24/7. So something to keep in mind. Devices, right? You can add devices directly to the user. The main one I want to emphasize here is a soft phone. You still get the 1A message. We're going to get this big box coming up here. The main difference is down here towards the bottom where it says use third-party application, right? So under devices, this option doesn't show up. So that's why you, for a Virtual PBX soft phone, you need to come to the users. You click on this. Now it says use Virtual PBX application. So now I just need to give it a name. I click on create device. I click on save changes. Once I click on save changes, Aaron would get an email showing his login information as well as download links for the Virtual PBX soft phone app. The other thing that comes up is the web phone. right? So the web phone uses your dash login information. So it's not going to work until you assign a web phone to a user. So I'm like, well, just create it on the user itself, so that way you know who has it and who doesn't. All right. Users have features. Caller ID name, this one only comes up for users with their own phone number. When you turn it on, you select their phone number or which of their phone numbers, and then you click on Save Changes. Now this phone number becomes Aaron's outbound caller ID, right? Whenever he makes a call from his VoIP phones, instead of the main 323 phone number I have set up under the dashboard. A virtual text, this is a new feature. If you're an existing customer, you're going to want to talk to our account services team. So when you turn it on, you select a number. Now the number can be the phone number that's assigned to the user, or a main number or auto attendant number. And then you click on Save Changes. After that, Aaron gets an email from Virtual Text app saying, hey, welcome to Virtual Text. Here's where to log in. You can also download the app for your cell phone, and that's where you would then send and receive texts from. Virtual Text, you can share phone numbers among different staff members, so that way you have multiple people keeping track of texts. Voicemail box, this is going to be a pretty default setting. For the most part, transcription here is a plan-specific feature, right? So available on some plans, not on others. And what it does is it listens to the voicemail and then tries to type it out in the email notification that is sent out to you. Voicemail to email by default is on, and that means we attach a voicemail message to the email notification. That email notification, right, it will include like the date, the time, phone number, etc. And there'll be an attachment, MP3 file, so you can click on that and listen to it, see what the message is. Voicemail boxes can hold up to 100 messages. After that, they are full and cannot accept any more. If your staff aren't deleting their messages properly and you're tired of having to clean them up, then you can choose this option here, which is delete the messages from the database after that notification email is sent. Right? So basically, email is sent with the PDF or the MP3 attachment. System then deletes it from the server. That means your staff members can only ever check voicemail via their email. So if they ever have a problem with their email, like emails don't get to them, they lose the voicemails. Right? Whereas if they're good about deleting their messages, right, you can leave that unchecked. So now they have the option to check via email. They can listen to it via the user portal, as well as dial in and listen to it over the phone. Follow me. Again, this is for users with multiple devices. When you first set it up, it looks like this. Right? They're both set to do not ring, and you basically have to tell the system which devices am I using. Right? So then you uncheck it. These are sliders, right? And just like in groups, right, you can change the order. You've got the total ring time up here. You can click distribute, save changes. Fax box, users can have their own fax boxes if you want them to. If you do this, I recommend making sure they have their own phone number. That way they can send and receive faxes. Right. The other option you have is to assign an extension number. If you do that, this person can only ever receive an inbound fax, right? Because the system will look at their fax box on their system when they try to fax out, grab the extension number, and try to use that as the outbound caller ID, which will fail. The other caveat to know about having an extension number on a fax box is not everyone may be able to fax to you, right? Because you're then relying on the person faxing to you to call into your main number, right? That rings to a virtual receptionist or auto attendant. When they hear the main greeting play, they enter in the fax box extension and then send fax. Now, some analog fax machines, right, you have the option to enter like star or pound or comma to give a pause and then additional digits, right? So then they could send the fax through. But like some electronic fax services, they don't have the ability to let you send a fax to an extension number. Conference bridge. When you enable it as an admin, the only thing you need to do is create a conference room PIN number and click on Save Changes. This just means Aaron can host or moderate that conference, and he'll, under his conference tab, he can then set up his conference room PIN numbers and customize it there. Call forwarding, off, on, or failover mode. So your staff members can turn call forwarding off or on. Right? They can do that via the user portal or via their VoIP phone. Failover mode is something you have to set up as an admin. This is so when their VoIP phone goes offline, right, becomes unregistered, under failover mode, then a call comes to that user, right, the system will automatically forward the call to the phone number you designate here, right, +1 area code and phone number. Click on Save Changes. Customize call recording. Every account you have the option to record calls. By default, when you first enable it on a user, it looks like this. Right? You basically need to tell the system what kind of calls are you recording. Inbound internal, coworker call. Right? So we'll say Bob called Aaron. Inbound external, customer Mary called Aaron. Right? Outbound internal means Aaron called coworker Bob. Outbound external means Aaron called customer Mary. And then you click on Save Changes. Now, every account includes some amount of storage. It's going to vary depending on your plan. Once you go over that, you would get a storage based. Usually, it's the overage is on a per gigabyte basis. You'd want to talk to our account services team for more information on that. Music on hold. You can choose to have your staff members have their own hold music if you want them to. Right? Upload a file, mp3.wave, recorded in mono, under 1 megabyte. Click the up arrow icon, and then Save Changes. Do not disturb. Turn it on. That means this user is not going to be offered calls. Typically will be sent to voicemail. Hot desking is a VoIP phone feature. When you click Enabled, there you go. You choose a hot desk ID number. I usually recommend 4 digits, especially if you're making use of 4-digit extension numbers. Just easy to use their extension number. Up to you if you want to require a PIN number. Then click on Save Changes. So this is for a shared office environment or like hybrid scheduling where you've cut back on your office footprint, right? So you don't have as many desks, as many computers, as many VoIP phones. So Aaron comes into the office on Tuesday. He sits down at desk number 2, picks up the VoIP phone, dial *11. That turns on hot desking on that phone. Ask him for his hot desk ID. He enters that, and then we'll tell him calls will now be sent to this device. So his rest of his workday at the office, right, calls are coming to him at desk number 2 on that phone. End of his day, he picks up the handset, dial *12 to turn off hot desking on that phone, goes home. Next time he rolls into the office, well, that's a Thursday, right? Felicia's already sitting at desk number 2. He says hi, moves on to desk number 5. Sits down, same thing, picks up the handset, *11, hot desk ID. Now calls are coming to him at desk number 5. All right, voicemail boxes shows all the voicemail boxes on the account. When there's information in the user column here, that means it was a voicemail box created when the user was created. You can create your own up here at the top by clicking Add Voicemail Box. Give it a name, a voicemail box number, and a PIN number. Click on Create Voicemail Box. Once a voicemail box is created, if we go to Advanced, click on Greeting Media. That lets me. There we go. You have media file and temporary, right? Media files is your default, right? What people will play most of the time. Temporary, that's the out of office or vacation voicemail message. So if you have something selected in temporary, it will play, right? Once you put it back to none, then the media file will play. You can upload files, mp3.wave, or mono under 1 megabyte. Click the up arrow icon. Right? And the pull downs would also let you select. So like if you have a generic out of office message, right, you could just select it from the pull down and then click Save Changes. Then recipients. So now your user created voicemail boxes already have a built-in recipient, right? The email address used for login. For any voicemail box you create on this page, you're going to want to come to the recipients here, click Add New Recipient, enter an email address, click Add. Now, actually, sorry. If you just need the one email address, right, you enter it here, click Save Changes. If you need to add multiple, then you would click Add after that first one. Now, for that earlier scenario where I said, hey, you could just use alternate email address to have it go to the support@virtualpbx.com for your support team. What you could instead do is under each of your support team members' voicemail box, send it to an additional recipient for the support@virtualpbx.com. So that way Mark gets it and then the support box gets it. That might be redundant and lead to, duplicating work. So again, your mileage may vary. And then lastly, the options. So once a voicemail box has a media file and has recipients, then you can click on Already Set Up. You can, here's the option to change if it's attached to email or not, as well as the delete after notification, and then save changes. Advanced routing, this is for direct inward system access. This feature is not enabled on new accounts on sign up. So if this is something that you end up being interested in, you'd want to talk to our account services team. Once it's enabled, you click here and click Enable. I'll get the page to refresh here. Now, when you first enable it, it just creates a PIN number. The expectation here is that means you can then add DISA as a menu option. It's an advanced call flow. And what DISA does, I guess I should explain this further. I didn't actually get into it. This allows you to call in to say your main number from your cell phone or landline. You can then log in over the phone. Then, when you get to DISA, it allows you to then make an outbound call from your cell phone or landline via your system. So that way your cell phone number isn't shown as the outbound call ID, but your system phone number. My recommendation is once you enable it, click Edit Settings here. Click on Add Extension, give it an extension number. And generally speaking, I say one that's not part of your normal sequence. Click on Save Changes. So now what I'm saying is call into my main number. I enter this extension number I just created. The system will then prompt me for this PIN number. Right, and this is all from my cell phone. Once I enter the PIN number, I'll hear dial tone again. So now I just enter area code and phone number I want to reach out to. And whoever I'm calling, they see my main company number, not my cell phone number. Now, downside of this is if someone figures it out, they can make outbound calls on your account, and you may not know about it right away. That's especially true if you just left it with just a PIN number as a menu option, right? Because someone eventually will hit the menu option by accident, and then if they're of that kind of person, that will then try to find out the PIN number to see what the system does, what it will allow them to do. All right, then call logs. So one way to keep a track of your outbound calls and make sure they're legit is your call logs. So you see here, I've got Jan, but he used, looks like a cell phone to make an outbound call. So now I know, oh, okay, that's a legit call. All right, I can expand that out some more, see these other calls. All right, this I can download, it's a CSV file. All right, so I can use it whatever spreadsheet program to sort information. You see here, I have other calls that came in. That green arrow to the right means it's an inbound call. See if it was offered to anyone. Go to this month. Oops, wrong one. All right, so here I see the call came in, offered to this soft phone and then this cell phone number. And then which one picked up is the one that says normal clearing, right? Lose race means both devices were ringing at the same time. This one lost because I picked up here. Now, the calls up here at the top, you got the report call, right? Fire hydrant icon. This will create an email that goes to support@virtualpbx.com with the technical details. You do want to type in the body of that email the context, right? What happened or what didn't happen, right? Basically why you're reporting the call. A custom, you can choose your date range and then download a CSV file. The system will let you go back up to 1 year. Our engineers can go back an additional 18 months. After that, we cannot retrieve the call data. So if you need the call data for compliance reasons, I recommend checking every month. Just downloading them all, and then that way you have an easy labeling system as well. Feature codes, I've touched on a couple of these. These are just ways for your VoIP phone users to access Dash features directly from their VoIP phone. This information is also on our website under the support pages, right? Feature codes. There's also the phone commands cheat sheet, which is a one-page PDF that gives a little bit more context on how to use the various features. That's the dashboard. And we're already over an hour 20. So let's go on to these other features. Blacklists. This is a universal feature, right? It's on all accounts. This allows you to create a list of phone numbers that you are blocking from reaching your system. You click Edit Blacklist over here to the top right. You click either Add to create a new list, or you click on an existing list. Right? You can always give it a name, and then do you block anonymous or not? Right? If this is on, that means if we don't get valid inbound caller ID for whatever reasons, we're blocking the call from reaching the system. Beyond that, you click on Add Number, put +1 area code and phone number. No spaces, no parentheses, no dashes. Right? So that means these numbers, when they try to call into the system, they get a busy tone. Right? And if you need to remove someone, you can just click on that trash can icon. You click on Save when you're done, right? Back to Settings. And then you want to make sure that your active lists are over here to the right under Selected. And then you click Update again. Faxes, this goes to your fax manager. Again, an included feature. Inbound faxes. I don't know that I have a lot. Oh, yes, I do. So here you see the date, the time, the phone number it came from, number it went to, number of pages. You can also download the file. Outbound faxes, you select the fax box. Oh, let's see. I don't know if I have anyone who has an inbound fax. Looks like not. But basically for inbound faxes, or sorry, outbound faxes, it would show the time, etc. If you ever see the status might be failure. And if you see that, that means the system under outbound faxes, that means the system had a problem communicating with the other fax machine. Right now, there could have been a connection established that was disconnected prematurely, or could have been just we got busy tone, so we couldn't connect. The email to fax logs, if you have anything here, this means that was the system had a problem processing the request. And there'll be a little eyeball icon here to the far right that will give you further details. That is things that we see commonly are, people forgot to include an attachment. So it says no valid attachments, or sometimes they choose the wrong attachment type, right? Because you can only fax out a PDF or TIFF. So if you send like a JPEG, it will come up with invalid attachments as well. Number Manager, this takes you back to your spare numbers page. Reports, this is for the advanced reporting. So this would actually open a new tab and take you to reports.virtualpbx.com. This basically, you can create your own reporting that you can use to get better information on your call activity. Under our YouTube channel, under videos, you want to look up the advanced reporting demo, and they show you what can be done with that, or some of the options. If this is something you're interested in, then you'd want to talk to our account services team. Voicemails, this takes you to the voicemail manager, again, an included feature. Oh, advanced reporting is a plan-specific feature. Sorry if I didn't say that. So under voicemail boxes, you can get to any voicemail box on the account. And you can see oh, interesting. I don't know if we have any voicemail box or voicemails on this account. Basically, you can see the date, the time, the duration. You could play it back, right? Download it. If there was a file here, right, you can click on a checkbox in front of it so you can move it to a different voicemail box or just get rid of it. ACD queues. ACD stands for Automatic Call Distribution. This is actually an upgrade on existing plans. And so it's possible that you may need to upgrade your plan and then, so change plans and upgrade, and then add ACD queues as an additional upgrade on top of that. This is essentially a call center feature, right? So like if you ever called into like your bank and it got on hold music, usually when you get to that hold music, you've entered an ACD queue, right? And then it's routed to who's available. I'm just going to click here on the gear icon here as if I'm adding a queue, but you give it a name. Now, queues can have either a phone number or an extension, right? They cannot have both. Now, they can still be a menu option from your virtual receptionist or from any of your auto attendants. Queue routing strategy. Unfortunately, this pull down doesn't work. Round robin will equalize out over time. You've got most idle, which means whoever's been waiting the longest gets the next call. Least calls means the least number of connected calls, and least offered means the combination of missed and connected calls. Right, the least number gets the next call that comes in. Hold treatment under standard queues. You can upload a file, MP3, .wav, etc. We also have ACD queues Pro. So for the Pro queues, you can have multiple music files play, right, in order or however. You can also announce the position in line or the expected wait time. The other thing I should keep in mind, accounts can only have either ACD queues or ACD queues Pro, right? So I can only show you the one. To see ACD queues Pro, we have a demo on our YouTube channel. Just look for ACD queues Pro demo. It will show up there. Right, queue timeout measured in seconds. This is how much time people can wait on hold to speak to your staff members. You call limit, how many people can wait on hold, right? So I have it set at 4, which means 4 people can wait on hold. That's on top of whoever's already speaking to my staff members. If I change this to 0, that means there's no limit. All right, timeout immediately if empty. That means if I have no staff members logged in and a caller enters this queue, the system will treat that caller as if they hit 3,600 seconds. Escalation call flow after timeout. This is a pull down. Basically, hey, after that 3,600 seconds, what do you want to do with the caller? And just choose from one of these menu options. Right? So you can send it to another auto attendant, a group, another queue, a voicemail box, etc. The 0 out call flow, if you have something selected here, that means you're allowing your inbound callers, right, who are on hold, to press 0 to leave the queue, right? And then this pull down is where are you sending them to, right? Typically voicemail box. Agent behavior. Agent recovery time is measured in seconds, usually 0 to 30. This is how much time the system waits before it offers an agent a second call, right? So Bob is on a call in the queue. The call ends. The system will wait 15 seconds before it offers him a second call from the queue. Force away on reject or missed. If this is enabled, that means if Bob misses a call in the queue, the system will mark him away. And he will have to mark himself ready on his own. Right? So he's not offered calls until he does that. And then agent connect timeout measured in seconds. Default is 20 because in queues, you can only accept calls with a VoIP device. And then you would click on create queue or save changes. Now, once you've created a queue, over here on the left, you click on the little members icon. This shows my staff members who are available to be in my queues. If I click on manage members, I can then choose people to move over to the right And so now Bob can be in my queues. So once I have everyone over to the right that I want, I can then go back to my queues icon. And in a queue, right, I can click agents if there's people logged in. If I have no one logged into a queue, right, then I have a bigger button that I can add. Oops. But then it's just click and drag people over to the right. And so now Michael, I've added to this queue, so he can then sign in. Now, once you've added agents, you can then choose among those people to be a manager for that queue. Right? You just click and drag them over to the right, and then click on Save Changes. And basically, that just manager can see everyone's status in the queue. They can log people out as well. Now, once you're assigned to a queue, right? So the Dnd toggle goes away, and then when you sign in, you can come here at the top, go to ACD queues. So let me actually go ahead and sign out for right now. So beginning of my day, I would click on Begin Session. And especially that first time you log in, but it's worth checking each day. Click on the little phone icon here and select your VoIP device that you want to take calls on. Ideally, it's green. I'm just not logged into that particular soft phone right now. Click on the handset icon again, and then I change my status to ready. My bar turns green, and now I'm ready to accept calls. Now, when I'm offered a call, my little bar on the left turns light blue. When I'm on an inbound queue call, my bar turns to be a dark blue. If I'm on an external call, right, so I'm calling a customer back or called my extension number directly, my bar turns yellow. If I'm on wrap-up time, it's a gold bar. Dynamic caller ID, this is a plan-specific feature. This allows you to create rules to change your outbound caller ID for your VoIP phones. So the first one is based off of area code. Let me just click edit next to this one. So I gave it the name for 408 because that's the area code involved. Caller ID to display, I choose a phone number on my account. Choose any number there. And then I say, hey, I'm going to use caller ID when any of my staff members from their VoIP phones dial the area code 408 from their VoIP phones, the system automatically changes their outbound caller ID to this phone number. Right? They don't have to do anything else. The other way is here. I said, hey, I created a feature code. So now I'm relying on my staff members when they dial out to first start with *550, then enter the area code and phone number that they're reaching out to. When they do that, the system will automatically change their outbound call ID to this 323 phone number without having to do anything else. Right? So by the area code is probably the easiest. Just depends on what you're trying to do. Monitor is another plan-specific feature. This allows you to see the status or presence of your staff members. So like if they're on a call, they would show up as blue. And you can see what device they're using as well. You can also sort by devices. You can see who's available and who's busy. Over here, active inbound calls, each call would have its own blue box and you'd show who they're talking to. And parked calls, if you have a parked call, it would be down here and they'll have a parking spot number. Recording Manager, this will either open a new tab at recordings.virtualpbx.com or will show your AWS storage, right? So if you made use of AWS, it will link to your AWS account directly so you can see what's there. Otherwise, it opens a new tab that takes you to recordings.virtualpbx.com. Recordings.virtualpbx.com uses your dash login, and you would use that to listen to your call recordings, delete them, download them, etc. Webhooks, this is a plan-specific feature. You'd actually want to talk to our sales team about this. This allows you to link Dash to other software. Like Zapier is the most common, right? And this requires some level of programming. So this is not for your run-of-the-mill user. This is people who want to get a lot out of their system. But for the most common, for instance, is linking your Dash account to a Zapier account, and then using Zapier to link to even other more additional software. We do have a demo on our YouTube channel, right there, or actually it's a webinar, Introduction to Zapier. So I encourage you to check that out. You can also go to developer.virtualpbx.com. There we have sample code of what we have done to link Dash to other software. And then lastly, we have the user portal. Every user on your account has their own user portal. Right? As an admin, you're not able to get to anyone's user portal, but you can get to everything. So, or everything else that it's based off of. So on the user portal, it defaults you to your voicemail box or your incoming voicemails, right? So you can play them back, listen to them, change their status, delete them. Call history, you can see your inbound and outbound call history. You can change the date range. The fax tab only works if you have your own fax box. Contact list tab, excuse me. This shows you everything on the Dash account, right? So everyone's extension, whether they're auto attendants, groups, queues, etc. Standard users aren't able to edit this at all, right? It's just for information, right? View only via the user portal. Conference tab. Over here to the right, this is where your staff members would update their moderator PIN number and their participant PIN numbers. They choose if people can start muted or deafened, playing entry and exit tones. When they're in a conference, they can click on the plus icon to invite other Dash users to their conference. They can lock a conference so other people can't wander in, mute everybody, unmute everybody, end the conference. When you're also in a conference, each participant has their own little box. So as a moderator, you can actually mute a specific person or kick out a specific person. The Settings and Devices tab. This is where your staff members can enable call forwarding. Right here, they just enter in +1 area code and phone number and click on Save, as well as see the status of their devices. And that is everything. Sorry we ran a little long today, but I'm not seeing any questions in chat. So I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. We'll be back next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific.